Hi everybody! Tonight I'm going to be reviewing The Incredibles 2, the most anticipated animated film of the year, a film fans have been waiting for 14 years. I saw it today with my friend Nathan, and my friend Dewey wanted me to review it, so I decided get it done with right away so you don't have to wait till November for the DVD to come out. So, recap of what I thought of the original Incredibles. Great action sequences, but what I really liked is the family dynamic and some of the characters, really mature themes. So I was hoping there would be plenty of the latter in this film. The former was a given, pretty much. The Incredibles, the original, was really a film that grew on me the more I watched it. I really appreciated what was there more from a certain viewpoint the more times I watched it. Sometimes it happens to me with movies. Now, The Incredibles 2 has been released 14 years after the original. Before the movie, they had a video with the voice cast and director saying they realize it's been a long time and thanking us for being patient. And it is surprising how much time has passed. To give you an idea, for Pixar alone, we've had 3 car movies in between the 2 Incredibles movies. Not saying anything against the Cars movies, but 3 as opposed to 1 sequel. Kind of crazy. So, a sequel to one of Pixar's most popular movies, and a movie that we've been waiting over a decade for. So, how did it turn out? Let's figure this out. The reason this movie was wanted, as people wanted a sequel for so much, is actually there's 2 reasons. The first is a nice world that had a lot of potential with all the superhero in action and seeing Jack grow. And second, the movie itself had plenty of storylines open, which is a good thing for when you want a sequel, but bad for when a sequel is either never made or takes a really long time like this did. For example, we had another villain, the Underminer, as well as the question of whether superheroes would become legal again, which by the start of this movie they're not. And it's still more focus than in the original, to the point of being the main plot point and the major goal of Elastigirl, or Helen, for this movie. It begins right where the last one left off, with the Underminer, and it's a great opening sequence and fight scene, just filled with the typical action that you would expect, and then going into other questions we had about the last film and seeing how they're being wrapped up. Things aren't going quite the way that they should, but there is a bit of hope because Helen is called to hero work similar to Bob in the first film, and if all goes well, superheroes might become legal again. This is a story that borrows a decent amount from the original. The idea of one of the parents is going to have hero work, even though it's illegal, while the other stays and home for most of the film, raising the kids. But there's still plenty of new too. We get to see Bob grow as a character, which I'll get into more when we get into the subject of character development. But similarly to the original, we have pretty adult themes we have the idea of having your family members, the people you love, be better at choosing at more than one thing, like Helen is with Bob in many respects, having no casualties for one time when she does hero work in the middle of the film. Won't say the exact circumstances it happens to, but a major difference from Bob, and having more of a sense of understanding of what to do for her kids. There's also themes about living in one's shadow, who to associate with something bad that happens, whether to blame others or to just understand things happen, losing your dependence on other people, and trust issues. So much of that is brought up here. And I'm being ambiguous as I possibly can so I can avoid spoiling this movie. Now, as you can probably guess, there is a twist villain, and it's not the most subtle one that Disney has and Pixar have done lately. But it's done well, and more importantly, the character has motivation to do so, which is just as important as whether it's a good twist or not. They might not be Syndrome, but it'll work for this particular film. The animation really has improved since the last one. 14 years is pretty inevitable. And just seeing how the little details of clothing, hair, the humans all look a little better, which is really appropriate because The Incredibles was the first Pixar film to primarily focus on human characters instead of toys or animals, because the technology for humans had improved so much since Toy Story. So it's nice to see how much it's improved since then. We get to see some great action sequences and some great and fascinating powers from new characters, especially Void, and seeing how she utilizes her powers, as well as the other superheroes that are new, as well as Jack's own powers that all really keep your interest, and just are visually interesting to look at. Now, onto characters. Helen takes the center stage in this point, and it's good to see some of her of what she might have been like in the glory days on a motorcycle. She mentions a mohawk. We see her kicking butt and liking it, getting an idea of who she was before the superhero ban and the birth of Violet. And having her as the lead is more than just having a strong female role. It's having expansion for a character that we saw as the voice of reason and strength for everyone else in the first film, and having her go on her own arc and really shining on her own. And we have Bob for most of the film. He's at home taking care of the kids, and he's not sure what he's doing. Violet's upset with him because of things related to Tony Ryan, her crush from the first film. He can't do Dash's homework. He's coping with Jack powers while excited. He can't keep control of him, which leads to a lot of comedy, and that whole subplot is just as gripping, if not maybe even more so than the Elastigirl part. because, like I said before, even though I liked the superhero action in the first film, the family dynamics really were what made it special to me. So I'm glad that they still have plenty of it here. And just seeing how Bob is used to being so strong and able to handle anything to really struggling in these areas really makes him more relatable. And while he is still the same person he was for the original, it's clear there's more to him and he still has room to grow. Dash is about the same as usual, and he gets some typical fun scenes like from the original, and there is a couple of really. There are. I'm sorry. Change my grammar halfway for that sentence. There are some great scenes, particularly around the end, where he utilizes previous knowledge he's had over parts of his family's life and little callbacks to both the first movie and things that happen in the beginning half of the movie. So everything really adds up and nothing comes out of nowhere. Oh, this is so hard to talk about without spoiling. But it's still really interesting to see how anything can come up as a major plot point later. Violet really has grown into a more complex character. She renounces hero work after she realizes what happened to Tony. He had his memory erased and forgot her, which happens in the first few minutes. Not real spoiler. It's literally the first thing we see, similar to the short Jack attack with Kari, but instead of Kari, we have Tony in that role, and it happens exactly the same way. And seeing her come to terms with realizing Bob's doing the best he can and acknowledging her role as a super. Now, Jack is probably what you're all wondering about. And yes, he gets new powers and they're really cool. And it also leads to some of the best comedy in the film, too. As for the new characters, they're harder to talk about. Winston and Evelyn are the people in charge of the Dev Tech, and Winston is a superhero fan that wants to bring supers back into the public. And Evelyn is his designer sister, who might have some nice scenes with Helen where they go over about having to live in someone's shadows when they're also having their own talents. Now, the other superheroes that you see in the trailer, other than Void, don't really have a lot of screen time. But what they do have, they can bring some real comedy and cool action sequences and some really epic battle sequences with them. But it would be nice to get to know them more. I was kind of disappointed because I thought it was going to be this epic teen thing, but then it doesn't really happen until the last third of the movie, and even most of that isn't exactly how you would expect it to go. And of course, Frozen and Edna Mode come back. Even Honey comes for it. And they're their usual charismatic self. And Edna has a bit of a more of a sweet side when she realizes Jack has powers. So that's really heartwarming to see. Now, another great thing in this film is a lot of touches and lines directly from the original. brace yourselves or push the button. And not yet, similar ones. But it's done so subtly that it's not like reference, reference. Hi, did you catch the reference? Can I be obnoxious about it some more? No. It's done subtly enough so it doesn't become annoying or over apparent. Some of them I might have even missed if Nathan, my friend, hadn't been there pointing it out. The biggest Incredibles fan I know. So, The Incredibles 2 is a sequel that honors its original's roots, borrows from it a little, but still has enough to stand on its own. It's visually stunning and has some great character development, and is a very worthy sequel to one of Pixar's most popular films. I wouldn't be half surprised if it won Best Animated Feature, and for once, not just because it's Pixar, what I assume it off the bat, which I already had before, I regret to say. I feel bad for assuming before I actually saw the other films and deciding. I've had a bias against it, but now I really realize that this is the movie we've been waiting for, and it deserves its recognition, and it very well might be one of the best animated films of 2018, and probably one of Pixar's best sequels. So, I hope everyone gets to see it soon. I tried to avoid all the spoilers while still highlighting the best parts of the movie. And as always, leave an anime film you want me to review in the comment section below, and I'll talk to you next time. Okay, bye everyone.